TIFU by taking ambien on a plane and teleporting. This TIFU is brought to you by an experience I had about 2 years ago that I still think about this day. Long story. Bear with me. Picture this. You're me, a scrawny college kid with terrible sleeping habits and a divine hatred of flying. Naturally, you pick an East Coast college that's a 6-hour red-eye flight away from your home on the West Coast. Mom has a stash of ambien she uses sparingly, just for particularly sleepless nights. Anticipating the shit show that is the red-eye, she lends me a few pills each time I head to school. The dose knocks you out for 6 hours at the least. Bingo. My perfect escape from the special hell that is air travel. So at this point, I had a routine. Take a pill right after boarding, sleep through the flight, and wake up well rested just in time for landing. Grab an Uber to school, and lug the bags to the dorm. Easy. After several successes, I got an ego. I thought, hey, flying can't be that bad. Maybe I can sleep through this on my own. And if that fails, I've still got the pill as a backup. So I try falling asleep undrugged. I'm in and out of it, keep waking up at every beep and shuffle and overhead announcement. So I give up. It's still hardly been 10 minutes. So I take the full dose and prepare for bliss. Shortly after, I'm yanked out of my clinical slumber by an announcement that we've begun our descent. That can't be right. I only just fell asleep. Here's where I fucked up. It hadn't been 10 minutes into the flight when I took the pill. It had been 3 hours. The realization hits me along with a wave of intense nausea. If you've been on ambien, you know that stuff is potent as hell, and 2, you're not supposed to wake up on it. I'm tripping. And hard. I vaguely call out for a bag. And one appears in my hands. I dry heave all the way to the ground, all the while cursing the robots that I could see growing out of the walls. Somehow my luggage gets pulled down from above and handed to me. I forgot the face of whoever was sitting next to me, but I'm pretty sure they took off running once I woke up and started prophesying the end of the world into my barf bag. As I'm swaying back and forth in the aisle, waiting to deplane, all I can think is, you just have to get to the dorm. Just get to the dorm. My phone goes off. I'm standing at the entrance to the terminal, bags in hand, staring at my own phone as a notification tells me my car has arrived. To this day, I have absolutely no memory of how I got there from the plane, nor how I called a car. I blinked and I was there. I get in the car, yak into the poor driver's old takeout bag, and pass out until we get to school. I lug my stuff up the stairs and promptly remember that I don't have my key. My girlfriend, who was looking after my room while I was gone, has it with her. I call public safety to let me in, and fall asleep collapsed outside my own door like a rejected booty call. The officer arrives, unlocks my door, and lingers in the doorway while I drag my stuff inside. You gonna be okay? He asks me, probably noticing that I look like a doped-up sewer rat. I give him my friendliest smile and start to answer. But not before I gag and empty the last remains of my gut into my trash can. Perfect timing. He closes the door without another word. I took a shower, passed out, and woke up at 4 p.m. with the worst headache of my life. To this day, I've never delayed a dose on a red-eye. TL. Doctor, I took an ambien 3 hours into a 6-hour flight which had me hallucinate, teleport, and vomit all the way to school. Edit. Clarified that I live on the West Coast and traveled east for school. Fixed some misleading wording. Thanks for the karma, I think. IDK, I'm a lurker lol. And for the concerned folks trying to diagnose me LMAO. I'm getting a kick out of all of the stories with similar experiences. My husband's uncle had a similar routine: sit down in his seat, take Ambien. Then on one flight, something was wrong with the plane that they discovered in the pre-flight checks. So everyone had to deplane and cross the airport to their new plane. Crossing an airport on Ambien was apparently one of his more challenging moments. So his new rule is, no drugs before wheels up. Is foretelling the apocalypse an actual listed side effect of Ambien? I always know when my grandma takes Ambien, 'cause she'll call me at 3 in the morning delirious and babbling about how we need to get to Canning and stocking up for the end. It's a semi-regular occurrence. I also had a talk once with a friend about the coming nuclear war. He was also on Ambien. You should really just get your own prescription. Tell your doctor. Sometimes I get nervous on airplanes. And make sure you don't check the box for frequent urination. I flew non-stop from ATL to Doha, Qatar one time. 30 minutes before boarding I took 2 maximum strength Benadryl pills, and when I got on board I had a glass of wine. Don't remember the pre-flight check and didn't wake up until just after touchdown, when the arrival greeting was announced. I was put on Ambien as a teenager. I took it for approximately 1 week. One morning I woke up and my keys were in a different spot than where I usually left them. Then my car was not in the spot where I had parked it. When I started the car it was missing a quarter tank of gas. I had had a vivid dream the night before that I was driving a race car up and down a nearby highway. Needless to say I never ever touched the stuff again. Everyone reacts differently to Ambien, but for some it can be completely wild. I woke up on Ambien during a red-eye flight once. I found myself in Fraggle Rock. The talking pile of garbage was over in front of the emergency exit. And there were Fraggles bouncing to and fro everywhere. Most of the people were gone. But the stewardess thankfully wasn't. And that kind of brought me back to reality. This is fucked. I better go back to sleep, I thought to myself. And passed back out without incident. Decided Ambien isn't for me. The first month or two I started taking Ambien I did great and felt wonderful, but then my HUSB went out of town. So I go out to dinner with my BFF and had a couple of glasses of wine. Went home. Had another glass of wine. Watched a bit of TV, then took my Ambien. Holy shit. I woke up the next morning with fresh sheets on my bed. New PJs on and the door to my deck wide open. The deck is 3 stories up and had no railings as it was being rebuilt at the time. I had zero idea WTF had happened. Found my old sheets, PJs. I had gotten sick all over them. Apparently I slept-walked for I do not know how long that night. My dog did not appear freaked out, but I sure was. Bro. I may be an idiot. But from the way you wrote the story I legit thought you fly 6 hours daily to get from your home to your college. I combed the comments wondering why the F no one is mentioning this absurdity. Then I realized what you meant. I've occasionally been on some different types of short-term sleeping pills. Ambien didn't do anything weird to me. The one I'm currently on, however, makes me sleep eat and send weird-ass messages to people that I don't remember until I wake up to see the replies. We've finally worked out what dose I can have that makes me lucid enough to not go too crazy in the messages. But a few I wrote the first couple of days went from completely readable to complete gibberish that autocorrect couldn't deal with by the end of the message. Haha. You activated the teleportation sequence too late and suffered teleportation sickness. Be sure not to do it again. And also, you should probably get your own script of Ambien. Don't want your mom getting into trouble. At least when I hallucinated on Ambien it only lasted for about 20 minutes. And I was vaguely aware that I wasn't actually working in a beachside restaurant and carving important messages to my coworkers in a tree. Damn. I was on a 12-hour flight from Sydney to LA. About 8 hours in I started getting really fidgety and restless. And thought if I couldn't fall asleep I'd go crazy and kick the window out. So I asked my dad for one of his myoclonic jerk pills. And he gave me 2 because I'm quite a bit taller and heavier than he. Along with a sleeping pill. Immediately afterwards he mentioned when he was first prescribed on the jerk pills. He would only take half of one at a time. I felt like Cheech when Chong gave him a bunch of acid instead of sedatives. Next thing I remember was being chaperoned through LAX. Then I was in Dallas. Then I was in KC. I was basically unconscious from somewhere over Hawaii to 2/3 the way across North America. I was a teenager when the doctor prescribed Ambien for me. I remember knowing that I'm sensitive to most medicines. So I only took half of what was prescribed to me. The last thing I remember was being on my computer in bed and hallucinating what I was looking at coming off the screen. The next thing I know, I'm waking up 2 days later and my mom telling me she found me in the hallway throwing up and saying all sorts of crazy things. I lost more than 2 days on only a half a pill. I still have sleep issues. But I will never touch Ambien again. When I was younger, during the Bored and Invincible years, we used to have Ambien races. You and 4 to 5 of your friends get dropped off at a location that is like a 45-minute walk back. Take the Ambien and start walking. Getting back at all is a feat. Whoever remembers the most wins. When I take my Ambien I sleep. If I wake up during, it's always because I have to pee. I do so and fall back asleep. I've never had all the fun other people get to have with it. Only bonus is that I did get better at lucid dreaming, which I have always practiced, so it's been neat to be able to have more control. I took Ambien with a friend once. We changed into goofy clothes and applied horrible makeup before wandering the streets. Ended up dumpster diving at a gun shop. Before returning to the apartment to find my roommate with some weed and a bottle of chocolate cherry wine. I threw up in a closet all night. A family friend was prescribed Ambien and was later found by police in his church's parking lot. Passed out at wheel. Covered in honey. His hand was still in the jar. Something similar happened to me on a flight from San Francisco to London 10-ish hours. I live in Spain and was scheduled to land early morning in London and had booked a flight back to Madrid that night so I could go see some friends for the day in London. Well, right as we were about to board, I took 2 over-the-counter sleeping pills. No idea what they were. Had bought them at a pharmacy in London on the way over. And washed them down with a mini bottle of red wine. Well, I knocked out before we were even off the ground. The next thing I know, I wake up to a flight attendant shaking my shoulder. And I can see the cloudy but green English countryside below. Could I have really slept clear through a 10+ hour flight? The answer is yes. And I felt like a complete zombie. Almost as if my mind and body were separated. I struggled to wait through the long immigration line. And am surprised the immigration officer didn't take me for further questioning for fear I was drugged up. I then went to collect my bags and passed out on a bench for 5 or 6 more hours. I am really surprised no one disturbed me or stole my bags. At this point, I still felt completely out of it and with a brutally stiff neck. And I still had 5 or 6 hours till my flight, but there was no way I was making it into the city. So I staggered through the check-in for my next flight, and sat there for the rest of the day trying my hardest to not fall asleep again and miss my next flight. Brutal day all around. 0/10. Would not recommend. Frequent international traveler and a fan of ambien, in very specific circumstances. I call it my circadian rhythm defibrillator. First off, ambien only for flights over 8 hours. Second, ambien only after the flight is feet wet, over the ocean and not likely to turn around and land back at the departure airport, or crash into the ocean. Lastly, your first 20 ambien doses must be at home in a controlled environment. Know how it affects you before using it in the wild. Never, ever, see how it goes, on a plane or in a hotel. You'll have no idea how you ended up in that Guatemalan prison. Edited to add. One other pro tip: don't take ambien and then go to bed. Go to bed and then take it. Probably the biggest mistake people make is taking it and expecting it to make them sleepy. It doesn't. It simply turns your brain off. People do the damnedest things when their brain is turned off. I hate ambien. I genuinely wonder how this is even allowed to be prescribed, but Quaaludes got taken off the market altogether. I took ambien for a while. One time while on it I woke up in the middle of the night and decided I was going to go buy an 8-ball of crack. You know those tall metal reflectors the highway department drives into the ground to mark the edge of a road? I took out about 1/4 mile of them in my brand new, at the time, F-150. I don't remember if I got the crack or not. Another time I took it and I was playing guitar in my room. And all was fine until I felt like I was in a band. And I had little clown robots all over in my band playing with me. We even wrote a fucking song. It sucked. I also learned you could crush ambien and shoot it in a needle. One time I remember shooting it, and that's it. Woke up the next morning to an entire 10-pack of needles shoved in the wall in a straight line. No idea if they were used or not. My best friend woke up in the middle of the night on ambien and tried driving to his girlfriend's house because he missed her. He drove south to Iowa. She lived north of him about 2 miles. He went 190 miles the wrong direction. Fuck ambien, seriously. I get it. I, by all definitions in the fucking book, abused the ever-loving shit out of it. But there are equal stories from folks who took it normal and just wanted to go to sleep. Edit. These stories came from about 2007 to 2009. I got sober in June 2019 and have been doing great ever since. I'm taking it. The drug was Zopiaclone? Lol, I'm prescribed it. I intentionally stayed up after taking 2. Woke up to an empty bank account and after ordering Banu TV.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.